Hello. Thank you for your patience as we worked out a few technical difficulties. We are excited that you're here joining us this morning. Thankful for our speakers and our attendees here at PyData Global 2024. Attendees, I encourage you to use the chat feature and the Q&A. We will do some questions at the end of the presentation, but I'd like to introduce Vyoma and her presentation, LLMs in Regulated Industries, Challenges and Governance Solutions. I won't take up any more time. It's all yours.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak and taking the time to talk about LLMs and regulated industries. Thank you so much, Amara, for being so patient with me. So, we're talking about LLMs and regulated industries, the challenges and the governance solutions. So, one of the things that I wanted to speak about in this day and age with the advent of generative AI is the need for governance, the need of AI governance going forward in our industries. So, what I see now is the last entire year, all of us were like experimenting with generative AI. But this year, we are going to an entire different caveat, which is we are going to be doing governance on our LLMs. And the reason why we need it is because the LLMs, the nature of the LLMs is that the kind of answers it gives, the way it produces the results, they somehow might be in a way that they might hallucinate, might give you information which is not relevant. So when you're in a regulated industry, how do you make sure that you are coming up with a solution which is unbiased, fair, and much likely to go into production and not be slapped with like $1 million lawsuits going further? So why do you need these LLMs in regulated industries, right? First of all, there we need it because we want some sort of operational efficiency. We need decision making, and then we need user engagement. So these models which are there, they help you bring like some sort of automation, scalability, etc. And one of the things that happens is because all of this is in like a sensitive sector, there are multiple sectors which kind of are prone to some sort of errors when you're utilizing some generative AI in the background. So let's say finance. If you're using it for credit scoring, due diligence, know your customer, etc., there can be some sort of error that can occur, which can lead to some sort of a cascading loss in finance or some sort of regulatory action. Then we have the healthcare department. So let's say that the healthcare department is there, we see some sort of misdiagnosis. I know a lot of clients and a lot of healthcare companies that are using generative AI to do some sort of prediction. Let's say the diagnosis or the prediction in figuring out whether that particular person is prone to a disease or whether or not this particular medicine will help you solve an issue. There can be a misdiagnosis and can cause a problem as well. Then comes law. So there can be like any sort of inaccurate legal prediction or unexplainable decisions, which would again lead to some sort of errors in the results. And then what can happen is when a chatbot gives out that result, there is a lot of pipeline. There are a lot of pipeline issues that can arise because of that. So LLMs and regulatory industries and regulated industries and demand not just technical precision, but also some sort of an ethical approach in this. So what are the stakes? So what makes some of these regulatory industries unique? So first thing is, let's say we are talking about heightened accountability. Then comes complex regulatory ecosystem. Then we are talking about evolving these stakeholder expectations, and then some sort of impact on public trust. So when we talk about heightened accountability, we are looking into some sort of significant societal or some sort of economic damage. For let's say some sort of misdiagnosis in a healthcare department can lead to plummeting of some sort of stocks. It can also lead to some lawsuits, as I mentioned, and also some issues and such that you lose a lot of credibility in the market. If your particular model is like biased in some sort of credit scoring, etc., you're not addressing a particular population. Again, quite problematic. So there are also now say regulatory fines which are there. There are sections, sanctions in industries like finance, which make you accountable for the actions that you're going to be taking. Then there are complex regulatory ecosystems. Each country, EU AI Act, then the NYC law, with the advent of generative AI and even AI as a whole, there have been some sort of diverse global regulations that are being imposed in this entire AI system development. When I go to a particular client, we have internal audits which are going on by some sort of a internal company, or there are external clients. We have the big fours and other clients as well, other companies as well, which are doing some sort of auditing on top of the generative AI workflows that are generated. Then there are some sort of cross border operations that are happening, then which can also face some sort of challenges due to inconsistency. I know for a fact that the government and all the regulations, they're coming up strong with some sort of AI governance pipelines or AI governance laws and policies that we all must abide by. Then comes evolving these stakeholder expectations. So the customers, they demand some sort of personalizations and for privacy and fairness. So I see a lot of um, generative AI use cases being in the space of customized, personalized information, and that kind of makes people much more ready to leverage generative AI. But again, with that particular high risk and high reward situation, we are also have to make sure we are evolving their expectations in a perfect manner. And again, impact on public trust, which cannot be emphasized enough. Like industries like healthcare, law, etc., they rely highly on public confidence. So any sort of error, like some sort unfair sentencing, could erode like any sort of trust and provoke widespread criticism. Okay. So now there are some things that I wanted to speak about. What are the challenges? Why are some of these LLMs risky in regulated settings? So one of the things is opacity of black box models. Some of these LLMs, again, they're generating some sort of input. We are not quite sure what are the specific rules, what are the specific input parameters that have been given, which makes these compliance auditing challenging. So again, we have to make sure that there is some sort of transparency. A lot of talk is going on in the AI world, in the AI engineering world in the background, that how do you make sure that the models are transparent and you have explainability features. Again, a lot of companies have that now as well, and people are building it internally. Adversarial exploits. So again, models are being used and can be manipulated for some sort of adversarial input, such as to give you like any harmful results or biased results, etc. Then comes dynamic regulatory compliance. So regulations, again, they are not static. There's not one single page or one single law that is being used by each country, each industry. So you have to make sure we have dynamic regulatory compliance. Then becomes unforeseen bias. Even when we are training these particular large language models on like huge diverse data sets, sometimes the LLMs, they can learn all of these subtle biases, and then they will give out a model which is so biased and so unnecessary that even if it's in production, you'll have to look back and see, oh my god, now this particular model is not working as required because now the bias that it learned was way more than it should have. And then again, there is one more thing, which is the lack of benchmark standards. So when we had traditional software, we were like, okay, now this is accurate by like there was fairness, precision, ROC curve, some of the metrics, success metrics that were clearly defined. But with LLMs, we are seeing that there is some sort of a lag in the benchmark standards. Because there are multiple use cases, 100 different models used for these use cases, and these models are being trained on like 50 different data sets or more, and like way more than that. I'm just giving an example. So like, how do you make sure you are coming up with a benchmark such that you're able to govern the entire LLM framework together? So when we talk about a governance framework, what do we need in it? So these are a couple of different parts of a governance framework. It can vary industry to industry, but these are like the core foundation of a particular framework that you are coming up with. Governance should be a part of any sort of product or feature that you're shipping. So, first, we have to make sure that there are some sort of principle driven foundations. How in the back, like we had these different metrics such as accuracy, precision, etc. There have to be some universal standards, like it has to be fair. It is taking accountability that, okay, this is the particular model that we used for this particular result. Are you indemnifying it? Is the company who's giving up that model, are they indemnifying? If not, is the company who's using it doing it? So very, very important to do that. Comes the third thing that comes is transparency. How well that particular model had been trained, give us all the different parameters, give us all the different data sets that were used, how were the data sets filtered, what were the data pre-processing steps done. So I feel that this is one of the core principles that would be needed going further in this industry. I might be jumping the curve. There will be a whole different sector of people saying that, oh, to you, you're trying to go drill down a lot deeper, but slowly, slowly, as you see the nature of LLMs and how badly they can be misused, I feel this would be like a norm going further. Then comes cross-disciplinary governance teams. So again, we there's no longer a time that only data engineers, data scientists, AI scientists are sitting in a boardroom coming up with a decision. In that boardroom, now we need a finance team because they want to make sure that you're calling a large language model or small language model. And then if the number of APIs that you're hitting, is it way more than needed? So, or not. Now we also have legal team in it. Let's say they are there that, oh, this particular model, is it fair? Is it unbiased? Once it goes down, what are the kind of legal problems that can come in, or like again making sure that all the legal benchmarks are being looked into. But with these, we also now need ethicists, we need domain experts, we need technologists to ensure that whatever is being shipped is actually governed properly. You should have iterative risk assessments. Iterative risk assessments, again, you just do not need governance or need to have governance in only one step, which is like data engineering or pre-processing. It should be on each different phase, from data set curation to post deployment monitoring. Each step should be covered. Then comes auditable compliance by design. So we have to develop models with compliance mechanisms such as automated logging and documentation. Each and every part of that particular mechanism has to be logged, has to be documented properly. And then comes feedback driven improvement. So we have to enable the end users and the regulators to flag issues. Like let's say they see that, okay, this particular customer decision or this particular credit decision that has been come up needs a human intervention. So 100% you need human oversight in this day and age. Whoever says that can AI can be left loose and can be put in production however needed, I feel we need to have human oversight always. So, data privacy and compliance. Let's say we talk about this. What are the different architectures? How do we come up with the synthetic data for training? And how do we make sure our data is private and is being compliant? So, first of all, you should have zero trust architectures that are being implemented. Again, data access is on a very strong authentication protocol. Again, people who needed access, who need the access, have the access. So make sure that you have such architecture so that nothing's leaked and the sensitive data is not being exposed. Then comes synthetic data. Again, when you're generating synthetic data, you have to make sure that you are anonymizing any sort of sensitive data. If you're extrapolating on a particular data, make sure that it is looking into all the different groups of people instead of being biased on one. So make sure that that particular synthetic generation is anonymized. Then comes legal proof design. So you need to embed some sort of geofencing techniques to make sure that this particular data doesn't leave this particular country or this particular sector, to make sure that all the data is being compliant by each policy for each state, each country, or whichever necessary. Then comes AI specific compliance audits. So make sure that you have these regular AI specific compliance audits which are happening, which to check for any sort of data leak, unauthorized access, and non compliance. And then comes privacy enhancing techniques. So there are encryption methods, there are differential privacy methods. You always have federated learning that we are also going on, where you allow these multiple organizations to train like one particular model without exposing their data sets as well. So depending on the use case and depending on the kind of different data sets that are being on the use case, you make sure that you're utilizing the right enhancing techniques. Now we're talking about mitigating bias and ensuring fairness. So how do you do that? So in AI, like whenever we speak about AI, it has the tendency to seep into different sectors, such as a systemic inequality. Let's say it's seeped in into a particular where you're talking about bias in a sector, or like unfair towards a particular group. So governance practices have to include like some sort of bias audits. You're using the right amount of data, so you're making sure the data sets are reflecting across a diversity in demographic and culturally. Then you need some sort of intervention techniques. So you, let's say you want to make sure that you are utilizing a model, or you want to build a model which is being retrained on some other data or some domain specific data over time. So make sure you are retraining it, and whenever you're retraining it, the biases are identified, removed, and then the model goes into production. And always have human oversight. Allow any sort of manual intervention on any critical decisions that are there. Before anything goes into production, make sure there's someone, a human, who actually goes through it before it ends the entire process. So enhancing transparency and auditability. So how is this the way that we are doing it? Many governance models and many governance companies are doing this, and this is needed now more than ever. That when we want to have a model which is interpretable, why do we need that? We need to see what is that particular output, why did that output come in a particular manner, and what was that particular output in a non-technical term. So using techniques such as SHAP or LIME, and then you're using some comprehensive documentation. You're maintaining a detailed record of what this data source was, how did you train it, what were the training processes, and when you validated it, what kind of data did you validate it against, how was that data, where did you fetch that data from. So a comprehensive documentation, so you have something to fall back on, and when you need to see what this model did or not, you can go back and check that. And then audit trails, you're logging every decision of that model that makes. When changed a particular model, it did, let's say a particular script was running, and you had a script that, okay, if this particular use case comes, choose this model, if not, then choose that model. When you're validating it, again go through this pipeline and not through this pipeline. Why did you make that particular decision? So make sure you're logging each one of them. And then you have some sort of regulatory engagement, so you're proactively sharing the processes and the results with each regulatory body to establish some sort of compliance. So this is a use case that I wanted to talk about. Let's say there is one of the use case, to give you an idea as to how to do this going further. If you have a financial use case, you want to automate loan approvals. So a particular bank wants to accelerate the loan processes. You want to make sure it's fair and compliant to any sort of laws which are available, anti-discriminatory, the laws of the state, the laws of the company. What you do? So again, you train an LLM to on this anonymized shredded data to avoid exposing any personalized information. You make sure integrating fairness algorithms to ensure that it is equitable across all demographics. And then you're deploying any sort of explainability tools on top of it for real-time audit support. So again, I have condensed the solution down in 3 sentences, but the gist of it is you need fairness algorithms, you need explainability, you need continuous monitoring, and you need real time monitoring. And what can happen? So you can reduce the approval times by 50%, it can improve the fairness, and you can again maintain a regulatory compliance. And for use case for number two, let's say you have a healthcare use case where you're doing AI for diagnostics. a particular hospital wanted to do AI for faster diagnostics. I also see AI being used for a lot of drug exploration as well nowadays. So again, it can be extrapolated. So you use federated learning for collaborative training. You conduct any sort of bias audits to ensure there is accuracy across the genders, age groups, be it any other group that you wanted to be unbiased against. And you introduce some sort of explainable AI techniques to allow these doctors to trust and validate the outputs. What happens when you go post deployment? Let's say a post deployment monitoring. How do you ensure that you have long term trust enough? The only way to do it is dynamic model monitoring. Every model that you have to make sure you have some sort of drift detection and to identify the changes in that particular model over time. We've been doing this in traditional AI/ML, and same can be done in LLMs as well. What went awry? When did it? What was the outlier in the result that came up? You should be able to monitor that. And then comes regulatory audits and reporting. You want to automate the compliance reporting to provide these regulators with transparent insights into the model decision making, human oversight and intervention, feedback loops. You need to collect user feedback to fine tune these models and identify any potential gaps. And you need to proactively keep checking and testing for a proactive mitigation to simulate potential threats of misuse or misuse. Some of the future trends that I see in LLMs going further is we will have and we are having regulatory sandboxes for AI. We have the the sandbox for a particular the UK sandbox initiative, which helps you to trial and do these innovative LLM applications in their own sandboxes that are coming up. And I feel that is a good starting point, like an incubator for your startup, so that you are at rest, the company is at rest, that okay, whatever is being done here, it is going with, you're going in with that particular idea that you are safe, the data is safe, and nothing's going awry. Then comes standardization.
I
You
just want to
use
give you a two-minute warning to wrap up in
Thank
the
you.
next.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Naman. We have to standardize these metrics. We have to have ethical AI boards. We need automation on the AI governance, and we need a cross industry collaboration. No longer can one particular organization keep doing what they're doing, because now everyone's in the same boat. We have to make sure that the nature of LLMs doesn't keep us from being compliant and risk averse. And obviously, we need to have some sort of specific regulations tailored on every different use case or every different country. I know getting so granular into and regulating each industry into so many use cases, I feel I've heard this backlash before as well. You want to cover everything. I know that you cannot govern everything, but we should at least have a blanket which does, because of the nature of LLMs, what might happen going further is we might just lose control over time. And we work in a regulated industry, it's very hard to gain back that control after a result has been given, not in such a manner that it shouldn't have. All right, thank you. This is Vyoma, and if you need to contact me, I'm very happy to get on a call, jump in, have a conversation on LinkedIn or however, and help you with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I did drop the Discord link in the chat. So if attendees, if you want to continue the conversation over in Discord, there's a talk discussions channel, and it can be continued there. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to all of the attendees for being part of PyData Global 2024. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.